Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome back to the latest MEED webinar. This month, we are looking at the Saudi Arabia projects ecosystem, not just taking into account the massive Giga Projects program in the kingdom, but also looking at the mega projects in other sectors, because there is a lot more going on in the kingdom in addition to those Giga Projects, which we're all very familiar with. My name is Edward James. I am the head of content and research at MEED, and it's my pleasure to be able to give you this presentation today. Now, as normal, the presentation will take approximately 30 to 40 minutes. We're going through a lot of data and updates on the projects market in Saudi Arabia, and then I'll be taking a Q&A from you all. If you do have any questions at any point during this presentation, you can submit your question in the Q&A box, which you can see on the Zoom menu there. So submit your question anytime, and at the end of the 30-40 minutes of the presentation, I will take your questions and attempt to answer them. Now, this presentation is also being recorded, so you will be able to watch it and listen again in your own time, or share it with your colleagues and friends, and it will also be uploaded to YouTube over the next few days. In addition, you should also, during this webinar, at one point, receive an email from us with a PDF digital copy of this presentation too. So you'll be able to read through it at your leisure. So we've had 2,700 people plus registered for today. So it's a clear and very exciting interest in the kingdom. It's a quite amazing projects market right now, both in the context of the region and globally. A lot of things happening, and I think the sheer interest today in this webinar reflects that. Okay, so let's move on. The data from this presentation comes from two sources primarily. The first is MEED.com, which is our news, features, and analysis service and magazine. You can find out more about our daily news and features at the website MEED.com. And we also have our projects tracking database with more than 50,000 projects in the region and Africa. MEEDprojects.com. So by tracking all the projects and news developments in the region, we're able to quantify from the bottom up what's happening in the projects market. And if you're wondering where all the data is coming from, then it's these two sources mainly. Okay, and before I start the presentation, I just wanted to take the opportunity to highlight to you all our Saudi Giga Projects 2024 and MENA Construction Summit 2024 events, 2 days together in Riyadh on the 13th to the 14th of May this year. This will be our second such event. We had an amazing event last year with many Giga Project clients speaking and explaining their projects, explaining their tender opportunities and future plans, as well as many other key stakeholders and government representatives from within the kingdom. It's a hugely successful event, and we are even more excited to host it again this year with more Giga Project clients on board, with better networking opportunities. And as you can see here, we already have a large number of project stakeholders on board to attend and participate in this event with us. If you are interested in learning more about the agenda and the event itself, then please register or use your phone to scan that QR code there to find out more information. So really exciting event. I'll be there. I'll be chairing the event. My colleagues from MEED will also be there, and I'd love to see you all face to face. So in advance of this event, we've been having a number of advisory boards. We had one just last week in Riyadh, and as you can see, we had a number of major stakeholders attend the advisory board, and this is to help curate and mold the Giga Projects event to reflect the needs and interests of the market. And as you can see here, some very major companies, contractors, clients, consultants, suppliers attending and advising. We have Daria Company, one of the Giga Projects clients, El Safe Engineering Contracting, of course, one of the biggest contractors in the kingdom, like BC Arabia as well. We've got MZ Engineering, consultancy firm. We've got our diamond sponsors, Riyadh Region Municipality, also attended that as well, and National Centre for Privatisation, PPP. I can't go through all of the attendees, but as you can see, it's a very prestigious group of stakeholders who attended the advisory board and who've been helping us curate the event in May. So very exciting, and I recommend everyone to check it out and to attend if possible. And then finally, also just want to let you all know about our latest Giga Projects report. This is everything and more that you wanted to know about the Giga Projects program in the kingdom, taking into account all the official Giga projects in the kingdom. It's a very, very comprehensive outline of all of the Giga projects, what they involve, tenders, contact details, procurement plans, and everything else about that Giga Projects program. It's very visual, it's in PowerPoint format, very data intensive, and if you want to know more, please, again, check it out. There's a QR code and there's a special discount offer right now. Okay, let's start looking at the performance of the Saudi Arabia projects market last year. So just to set the scene, as we all know, 2014 and 15, in terms of the GCC contract awards, were the last really good years for the market. As we all know, in that period leading up to 2014 and 15, oil prices were above $100 a barrel, and this was reflected in very high contract and project spending in the region, reaching $173 billion in 2014. We then saw a decline in spending and contract awards from 2016 onward as the oil price fell, reaching a low point of just $72 billion in 2020, COVID year, of course. We saw a recovery to $121 billion in 2021 worth of contract awards, which was an indication that the market was recovering. That was the expectation at that point. But then the market in 2022 actually fell again to just $109 billion. So 2022 was very disappointing. And there was a lot of, I think, pragmatism going into 2023 about how the market would perform. And so how did the market perform last year? Well, it performed, frankly speaking, beyond all expectations. And never personally in my wildest dreams would I have expected the market to perform like it did. An absolutely astonishing $209 billion worth of project contracts were awarded in the GCC last year. This is way in excess of the previous record recorded in 2014 of $173 billion, and is almost double the amount awarded in 2022, a quite astonishing number, which I think is the result of the accumulation of various projects, 2 years plus of higher oil prices, the Giga Projects program, large-scale spending in oil and gas, and of course also recovery in the UAE real estate sector as well. So all of these advantageous situations and catalysts converging at the same time to create this incredible projects market performance last year. Now, these are contract awards, of course. We would expect to see these spending to start flowing through over 2024 and into 2025 and 2026. So an absolutely astonishing performance last year beyond anyone's expectations. Before I move on to the next slide, just again a reminder, this is being recorded. You will have a chance to listen again in your own time. We should be sending to you over the next few minutes the presentation itself in PDF format to your email if you've registered for this event. And you will have the opportunity to obviously and therefore read it in your own time. At the end of this presentation, I'll be taking a Q&A. If you do have any questions, please put them into the Q&A box on your Zoom menu screen. Okay, so that was the $209 billion as a whole for the GCC. How was that split by country? And two markets dominated. As you can see here, Saudi Arabia, the red line, had approximately $95.35 billion worth of contracts awarded last year, and the UAE had also very impressive $81 billion of contracts awarded. Now, in both instances, that easily exceeds the record for both countries in a single calendar year for contracts awarded. As you can see, Saudi Arabia, $60 billion in 2022, jumped by nearly 40 billion to 95 billion last year, and the UAE was even more impressive, jumping from 30 billion to 81 billion, more than $50 billion. Both records, and so it's not just all about Saudi Arabia. The UAE, particularly oil and gas in Abu Dhabi and construction in Dubai, have really propelled the market forward. The other markets, on the other hand, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman and Qatar have not performed quite as well. They are still largish markets in their own rights, but for various reasons, smaller economies, smaller populations, political challenges are a lot smaller in comparison. Now we're going to look forward now for the rest of the presentation on Saudi Arabia. This is the Saudi Arabia presentation. And this here takes the $95 billion worth of contracts awarded in the kingdom last year and compares them by sector compared with previous years. And you can see here that the largest sector by a major margin is construction, as it tends to be, although the construction did not jump considerably year on year. So both in 2022 and 2023, a little under $25 billion of contracts were awarded. Where we saw the big jump was in the power market, power sector, both in terms of thermal power plants and solar and wind projects. But we also saw a big leap in water contract activity, particularly in independent water plants projects, IWPs, water pipelines, distribution systems, and reservoirs as well. Transport and infrastructure also saw an increase, and as did gas. But the single largest increase was in petrochemicals, as you can see, $8 billion or so in petrochemical contracts award, mainly as a result of the Al Miral main packages being awarded. So one of the big attractions about Saudi Arabia is the fact that every sector offers opportunities, and indeed that's reflected here in this graph. I won't linger too much on this slide. This is the key contracts awarded last year, just for you to have a look, and you can see here some of the key contracts awarded. You can see here on the left-hand side, the oil, gas, power, and water work, a lot of Aramco, Saudi Public Procurement Company contracts. We've got SEC in their electricity space, a lot of key players there. And on the right-hand side, we're dominated by the Giga Projects like King Salman Park, NEOM, of course, Qiddiya, Diriyah Company, and so on. So as I said just now, a lot of activity across a lot of different sectors, a lot of different areas and clients makes Saudi Arabia one of the world's most exciting, if not the most exciting projects market anywhere. And then in terms of the largest clients and contractors, in terms of work awarded last year, you can see that the largest contractors, Larsen & Toubro out of India. L&T is active in all sectors, which has helped its performance. It's building the renewable energy complex for the green hydrogen project in NEOM, for example, and is very active in the power sectors and water sectors too. Hyundai out of Korea, very major player as well. SEPCO 3 from China. And then we've got a number of local firms, Nestman Partners, Al Mabani. We have El Safe, Bin Laden, Russia Training Contracting, Al Uni, and so on. But we also have a lot of international firms active in the kingdom too. A lot of Chinese contractors now coming in strong into Saudi Arabia. In terms of the key clients, well, Aramco still leads the way, but it's being caught up quickly by some of the key Giga Project clients like NEOM, New Maraba, Red Sea Global, Qiddiya, Sports Boulevard, Roshan, and so on. And then we also have some other clients in the oil and gas space and power space like SPPC, Satorp Refinery, and so on. Right, what about by region? And I think this is interesting because it shows the rise of areas where the Giga projects are located, and which may not have been before areas of major project activity. Perhaps the best example is Tabuk province, which is home of NEOM. As you can see here, was until 2020 a very sort of quiet area of the kingdom for projects market, but has jumped recently to become the second or third largest area of investment. Riyadh too has come from a much lower point over the last few years to second largest market, while the Eastern Province has had in the past been a leading area, mainly because, of course, oil and gas spending, petrochemical spending. It was just picked the others for being the largest market last year. But I think from this this graph, we can see the trend for spending to start coalescing in other areas, which is, of course, causes some interesting challenges of moving project resources, contracting resources, labor, and so on to these different areas as they ramp up their project plans. Okay, looking forward now. So that was the past. That was what we've seen, some really fantastic performances. And now looking at the future. So, of course, when you're looking ahead, it's important to look at the macroeconomic environment. And Saudi Arabia released its 2024 budget just a couple of months ago with its projections for the year ahead, as well as its latest estimates for 2023. And you can see here that in terms of nominal GDP, it's going to grow to 295 billion reals, and then increase growth change by in real terms to 2.7%. I think, and then inflation looking at 2.2%, current account balance 5.4%, and government debt is declining to 22.4%. So that's looking good, and that's healthy macroeconomic metrics. And of course, with government, with the economy doing well, then spending market, the spending on projects also tends to do well. Out of the expenditure allocation in the budgets, you can see here that in some sectors or segments of the government spending are going to be up in 2024 according to the budget, and some will be down a little. But based overall, with the budget predicts a 1.9% fall in government expenditure. However, it's very important to note that this is based on the projections, and generally speaking, actual spending is higher and actual revenues is higher than initially projected. And you'll be able to see that from the 2023 actual versus 2023 initial estimates. And in fact, here we are, you can see that in 2023, the budget was looking at 1.13 trillion reals of revenues. And actually, the updated 2024 budget says this figure is likely to be 1.19 trillion reals. So an improved performance on budget. And likewise, expenditure at 1.275 trillion for last year is far higher than the budgeted at the beginning of 2023, 1.114 trillion. So the budget this year predicts an even higher estimate starting at the start of the year, 1.25 trillion worth of government expenditure. So that indicates, based on previous performance, that we're likely to exceed 1.3 trillion reals of government spending. So good macroeconomic outlook, and that is, of course, the fundamental basis for driving project spending. Just taking a look at the 2024 budget, the budget does outline specific spending objectives. These are not necessarily the absolutely priority spending objectives of the government, but they are illustrative on the budget of what the government is planning to do across different sectors. So it has specified a new road for Jeddah Islamic Port and bridges there. It has stated it wants to build 50,000 new housing units as part of the housing program. several new hospitals with a total of 1,100 beds, 28 new water reservoirs, 33 dams, and allocate industrial lands in the Royal Commission for Jebel and Yambu worth nearly 30 billion reals. Again, it talks about setting up the first nuclear power plant in the kingdom under the National Atomic Energy Project. The kingdom is still evaluating partnership offers for the licensing of technology and for the development of the nuclear power program from Russia, Japan, Korea, France, I believe, and China. And we expect a decision on that to be made at some point this year. And as we saw earlier, the power market has grown a lot over the last 12 months and is expected to continue growing. We're expecting up to 20 gigawatts of new renewable energy projects, according to the government stated 2024 budget spending objectives. So we're in mid-February now. How is the market performing so far? The question is, great, we saw $209 billion in the GCC last year, $95 billion of which was in Saudi Arabia. Is this going to continue? Are we going to see it grow, or are we going to see it pared back? Well, as of around 16th of February, we had about $13 billion worth of contracts awarded in the kingdom year to date, which puts it roughly on par on a pro rata basis with the 2023 number. You can see the contracts awarded here. We have the massive dams project for Trojana, the Volt, the main dam, the Enchanted Forest, awarded to Webuild for $4.7 billion also. We've seen also major contracts awarded for the stadium and Opera House and Oceanarium. The Jeddah Central project, Giga Project, also the Formula One track works at Qiddiya was recently awarded, and so on. So just on the basis of the first few weeks of the year, then we are on track to match more or less 2023 number, which I'm sure is very encouraging news for everyone. Right, in terms of the other way of looking at the outlook for the year ahead is by taking the value of projects out to bid or in bid evaluation. And the kingdom leads here by a big margin. It has something like $108 billion worth of contracts out to bid in the market or under evaluation. That's 55% of the $194 billion worth of tenders and contracts in the market in the GCC as a whole. Now, this $194 billion compares very well with the same data this time last year, which was about $110 billion. So we've seen quite a big jump in market activity in terms of tendering as well. And then when we break down this $107 billion in Saudi Arabia by sector, you can see that there's a good spread across multiple sectors in the kingdom. Power is actually the largest segment, about $30 billion of tenders out to bid. Transport, 18%, $20 billion. Construction, 18.9 billion. And then oil, gas, water, and petrochemicals comprising the remainder. So normally we would expect the projects which are tendered and out to bid or under evaluation to be awarded over the next few months. So this is a good indicator of the likely value of work to be awarded in the kingdom this year. And as you can, and although not all projects will necessarily be awarded, some might be put on hold or postponed or cancelled, this is still a good indicator of the health of the market. And so with a figure of just over $100 billion, again, that ties in nicely with the performance of last year. So what are those contracts currently out in the market? Just some of the big ones to give you an idea. Leading the way, we've got the power sector, the Gaia wind farm for Enewa, part of the NEOM project. We have the IPPs at Rema and Nerea for the Saudi Public Procurement Company for very large gas-fired power plants. We've got the extension on Line 2 for the Riyadh Metro, which I'll talk about in a bit. We also have phosphate projects, fertilizer schemes, King Saud Air Base project, and various oil and gas projects too. So multiple different projects across multiple different sectors, which should be awarded this year because their tenders are out or being evaluated. And then just looking at the future pipeline, all told, we have in excess of $2.7 trillion worth of contracts and projects in the total pipeline in the GCC. That's projects planned and unawarded. And you'll see very clearly here that Saudi Arabia has is definitely the largest projects market in the region in terms of pipeline, $1.5 trillion worth of known future projects on the MEED projects database, and which are being tracked. And that's more than double the other markets combined. Nonetheless, UAE, 602 billion is a huge market in its own right. And even though compared to Saudi Arabia, the other markets are much smaller, they are also fairly decent in size, ranging from 60 billion to $211 billion. And of the $2.7 trillion pipeline, long-term pipeline, you can see in the GCC that construction is about $1.5 trillion, 56% of the total pipeline, followed by transport infrastructure, $400 billion, power, petrochemicals, oil, gas, and so on. So a very sizable and growing pipeline of projects in the region. So for years to come, it's looking very positive indeed. Right, let's look at specifically in Saudi Arabia and some of the trends which are taking place in the projects market as it grows and accelerates. I think this is something I've talked about before, but we are seeing contractual terms evolve, whether that's in the construction market or in oil and gas and power. It is increasingly a seller's market. Contractors are increasingly able to pick and choose what clients to work for and what contracts to bid on as the market heats up. And in response, clients are engaging in more let's say, unconventional contractual terms, such as early contractor involvement, FEED plus EPC competitions, and having contractors involved at much earlier stages in projects. This is, for contractors, obviously, this is a good way of reducing risk and makes the market more attractive. I think there is an increasing focus on construction technology and modern methods of construction, certainly in terms of BIM usage, digital twins, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, and so on. There is, particularly amongst the Giga Project clients, an increasing insistence that these technologies are employed on their projects. Not so much for government bodies or ministries who still by and large prefer the traditional means of construction, but it is something that contractors and subcontractors increasingly need to adopt and to be aware of. Likewise, there's a lot more focus on off-site fabrication and modularization in general. When building off-site facility, off-site fabrication and using modular techniques, then companies or clients can reduce the amount of labor on site, which is great for both the environment, but also in terms of reducing costs and pressure on accommodation. And in the long run, when you have such a massive building program, it makes sense to have modular design and construction to be able to deliver quicker and more easily as well. So that's something that a lot of clients are now looking very favorably on. ESG as well, very, very important that everyone in the project supply chain and all stakeholders are aware of ESG compliance and putting emphasis on reduced power usage, water usage, in terms of using renewable energies, but also in terms of gender equality, staff treatment, and so on. So in many cases, the Giga Project clients do have certain requirements from an ESG perspective. And again, any contractor or supplier, subcontractor that doesn't adhere to them is at risk of missing out. We've also seen a big trend towards PPP projects. We've seen the first schools and hospital PPPs now be successfully financially closed and under development. And if you look at the NCP, the National Centre for Privatisation in the Kingdom, they've got more than 250 future PPP projects ranging from hospitals and schools to roads, ports, manufacturing complexes, and other social infrastructure schemes. So a fair chunk of future spending, future projects will be along these PPP lines. We've also seen PIF make investments in the contractors as a means of building up capacity to be able to complete these and deliver these projects, but also in manufacturing and key material suppliers like cement, for example, and also work towards attracting foreign direct investment into the kingdom to help manufacture the key components and materials required on the major capital expenditure program in the kingdom. And what we're seeing as well is the development of a slightly two-tier procurement system between government ministries and municipalities and other entities which are bound by Saudi procurement law, and those quasi-government entities like many of the Giga Project clients which aren't. The clients who aren't restricted to under the procurement law are able to have a lot more flexibility in terms of contracting terms, in terms of sourcing more work from outside the kingdom, and is seen as a necessity in terms of being able to deliver some of these projects. Right, with such a huge increase in capital expenditure also comes a number of challenges. So we're seeing a 2- to 3-fold increase in the average annual value of work awarded, not just in Saudi Arabia, but the region as a whole. So how is all this work going to be delivered? Is there enough labor, both skilled and unskilled, in the region and Saudi Arabia to be able to deliver this massive spending plan? Likewise, are there enough engineers? Where are they going to be coming from? Where they're going to be housed, for example? What are the cost implications of a large increase in workers coming in? Is the visa system inadequate to be able to obtain visas for all this additional labor required? Likewise, with such a ramp up in expenditure, is there going to be enough cement and other materials, concrete, steel, aluminium, AC units, HVAC systems, etc., glass, just as an example, to be able to build all these projects? For example, PIF needs about 970 million tons of cement between now and 2030. Where is that cement going to come from? Saudi Arabia has a total cement capacity of about 50 million tons a year. So as you can see, there's going to have to be either a very sharp ramp up in local production capacity, or they're going to have to source from outside. But they will also be competing against other projects markets growing in the region. Of course, as supply becomes tighter, then costs will also increase. Adding the logistics challenges, for example, the Red Sea closure, the Ukraine-Russia crisis, then you can see that there's a convergence of different factors which create a scenario where costs are growing rapidly. We're seeing that some cost estimates for some of the major projects are coming in 3 to 4 times higher than some of the initial cost calculations done a couple of years ago. And this is obviously going to affect some projects, undoubtedly. So how are these projects going to be financed, especially if they become more costly? Yes, Riyadh has many options to finance its projects. There's potential asset sales, further stakes in Aramco, for example, could be sold off. There are bond issuances and various other means of raising revenues. But is it going to be enough if the projects market continues at the same rate or if costs increase? So will projects be rationalized? Will they be pushed back in terms of their final delivery times? Will they be rescoped to make it more pragmatic? We'll have to wait and see. Another challenge, not enough international contractors in the market. They still many contractors left, international contractors left the region as a whole over the last 10 years. There were payment challenges, the risks were considered very high. And many of these international contractors are still absent from the market and reluctant to come back in. So there is a big push to try and entice them into the market. There are some very large iconic projects that need major international contracting expertise and experience to come in and deliver. Likewise with suppliers and consultants. So we'll wait to see how that progresses. And of course, we have some very major event-driven projects, whether that's the 2030 World Expo, which we'll look at in a minute, or the 2034 World Cup, or the 2027 Asian Cup. There are projects which have to be driven, which have to be delivered by a certain period as well, and that also creates aggressive deadlines. And if you also look at the Saudi 2030 vision, there is a need to deliver a lot of these giga projects as well by that time. Now, when you combine that with iconic engineering and architecture, then it does create a number of risks as well as cost issues too. Now, localization is a big issue in the kingdom, and Saudization as well. There is a requirement for more and more equipment and materials to be sourced within the kingdom, rightfully so. But the question is there enough produced locally to be able to deliver on all of these projects? Likewise, Saudization is a big success, but companies are still reporting sometimes challenges in being able to recruit and find Saudi nationals and also to retain that talent as well. So these are the major challenges that companies are coming to terms with. Right, question about the market. The first question is going to come up now. If you could please answer this poll question, it'd be interesting to get your views talking about challenges. And this is a multiple, there are 10 questions here, so scroll down please to see all of the possible responses. And I'd like you all, if you can, to list or just choose what is your single biggest challenge facing your business today in Saudi Arabia and or the GCC. And it'd be extremely interesting to see what the result is. As I said, there are 10 questions. Please scroll down to see all of those responses you can choose from. Just give you a couple of seconds more to answer that. I can see I had 350 responses now. You should also all be able to see what everyone else is thinking. Looking now to see if there's a particular trend. And it seems that a lot of these are all problematic for companies. Right, okay, so we've had 500 answers, so keep them coming, but I'll just summarize what we've got here. So 18% are the two leading challenges, and that is skilled labor availability and increasing competition as your biggest challenge facing your business. And then followed at 14% by contractual terms, 12% cost inflation, and 10% engineering availability. On the other hand, some challenges are not considered such a problem. Material equipment availability, geopolitical environment, engineering availability, and unskilled labor availability are not considered so much major challenges. That's very, very useful, very interesting to see. Okay, thank you very much for that. And now we've got another poll question, which I'm sure you'll all find interesting, that I'd like you to answer. Poll question 2. Now, what is your appetite to take on more work in the kingdom? 4 choices here. Are you able to take on and are happy to take on more work in the kingdom? Are you a lot more work? Are you happy to take on just a little bit more work? Are you going to maintain your workload? Or even, are you actively looking to reduce your workload or exposure to Saudi Arabia? It's a clear, I think, a clear trend in this one. And the vast majority of you, 75%, out of 513 responses, say that you are willing and able to take on a lot more work in the kingdom, which is very interesting. So there's a large, very strong appetite for taking on more work. It seems that there's still capacity to do so. Well, thank you very much. That's very illuminating. And I hope you also find those results interesting when looking at your peers. Right, very quickly, I'm now going to talk about the Giga Projects. Very quickly, just a summary of the Giga Projects. As you can see here, we have multiple different Giga Projects, 5 official ones, many more under the PIF, as you can see in the bottom left-hand segment. Many Giga Projects which are non-PIF, such as the Royal Commission for Riyadh, Al Ula, Green Riyadh, Sports Boulevard, King Salman Park, etc. And then we've also got many other major mega project programs. In many cases, you could classify them as Giga Project programs too, such as the National Housing Program, the Aramco Spending Program, and so on, which is what we'll look at in a minute. Again, just to update you on the latest Giga Projects and on the latest spending on them, we estimate about $880 billion worth of Giga Projects in the market, planned or unawarded, of which about $80 billion, or nearly 10% of all work, has been awarded to date. This is just some of them. There was a couple more which are running out of space to add onto this map. And I'm no doubt over the next few months, we'll also see more launches of Giga Projects in the kingdom. Right, but we had a Giga Projects webinar last month, which you can find on YouTube if you want to watch that. But this month on the Saudi market, we're going to be looking at the other mega projects in the kingdom. And yes, while the Giga Projects have taken all the attention, there are many other major capital expenditure programs which are also happening and which also offer fantastic opportunity for both regional, local, and international companies. One of the most interesting ones is the expansion of Jeddah Airport. This is a $31 billion plan to expand the King Abdulaziz International Airport to 115 million passenger a year capacity by 2031. We're all aware of the King Salman International Airport project, Giga Project in Riyadh, but this is also almost as big, and work is already starting on this. A new one-way, new Terminal 2, expansion of Terminal 1, expansion of the Hajj terminal, and it also offers a very substantial project opportunity. So Jeddah Airports Company is the client on that, and companies should be aware of this huge project coming up in Saudi Arabia's second city. Another big projects program is the housing plan across the kingdom. Massive 250,000 plus housing program to essentially build housing units, villas and apartments for Saudi nationals. This is under the National Housing Company. This is purely for Saudi nationals and is made or subsidized for local nationals, unlike, say, for example, Roshan, which is a little bit more commercial in nature. You can see hundreds of thousands of units in Riyadh, in Eastern Province, in Jeddah. I won't go through them all, but these are being done either directly by the National Housing Company as the client, or through private sector real estate developments who sign agreements with National Housing Company to develop projects on their behalf. This is another huge construction program, offers a lot of opportunities for things like glass, doors, alarms, CCTV systems, public facilities, AC units, HVAC units, and so on. And it's something that the projects community should be well aware of as well. We know that Saudi Arabia is hosting the 2027 Asian Cup, and it may well or is likely to hold also the 2034 FIFA World Cup. And you may have seen a number of announcements recently about stadiums across the kingdom being announced or being constructed. There are 6 or 7 stadiums being expanded or built for the 2027 Asian Cup in Riyadh, Jeddah, and Dammam. And then there are also stadiums being developed in some of the Giga projects like Neom and in Qiddiya as well. You can see some of the images here, which are very futuristic in nature. You can see the Jeddah Central one, which was recently awarded for $1.7 billion to China Railway and Summer Training Contracting. We understand an award has been made on the Dammam Stadium in late December. I'm not going to say who it is, but that is progressing as well. And bids have also submitted fairly recently for the Qiddiya Stadium 2, which is going to be called the Prince Mohammed bin Salman Stadium. Now, some of these will host the Asian Cup in 2027, but a lot of them will also be hosting the World Cup in 2034. So this is one of those event-driven projects which I was speaking about earlier. Something I've also discussed before is something that also sometimes gets neglected, and that's the massive transmission distribution expenditure program from the SEC, State Electricity Company. Yes, everyone's talking about new power plants, nuclear program and renewable energy, but it's often forgotten about the need for overhead lines, cabling, and substations, both low voltage and high voltage. And SEC wants to spend $130 billion over the next 6 years. That's a huge amount. And this is something that is perhaps gone under the radar, but is a very significant investment too. And it offers a lot of opportunities for a lot of companies in this space. Another slightly different project is the two huge projects, which is the building of the new Metro Line 7 between the airport and Qiddiya. As you can see, it's this yellow line on this map here, running from the far northeast from the airport, running down to New Murabba, then to Diriyah, and on to Qiddiya. So that's Metro Line 7. Pre-qualification is underway for that. And then for Line 2, you can see in the red here, this is an extension from the existing, where the existing Line 2 terminates, and onto Diriyah, where it will interchange with Line 7. That actually is under tender, with bids being submitted very soon, next month. So there is these two huge projects in Riyadh involving bridges, underground lines, stations are both elevated and underground as well. And another event-driven project is Riyadh Expo 2030, only 6 years away. I was driving past this plot of land just yesterday. There's not much work at the moment. This is in the far north or northeast of Riyadh, near the airport, and just above Kapsark and Princess Noura bint Abdurrahman University. It's a big empty area right now with the metro and 2 roads running alongside it. There will need to be another metro station built to connect with this. But this is where the Expo is going to be located, and we're going to need a lot of work to be built very soon in this location. It's going to cost, according to the Saudis, about $7.8 billion. And then finally, of course, Saudi Aramco, traditionally the biggest client in the kingdom, and has major projects planned over the next 2 years. We've seen the Jafurah unconventional resources projects awarded last year, Al Miral, the petrochemical side as well. We should see the big master gas system phase 3 contracts awarded very soon as well, and multiple other projects too, all in the tens of billions of dollars. So Saudi Arabia is a lot more than just the Giga projects. There's opportunities across all sectors, and I've just touched on a few of them here, but it really is a one-in-a-kind and once-in-a-generation project opportunity, in our opinion. And of which MEED is your #1 source of information for taking advantage and benefiting from this massive capital expenditure program, whether it's in our MEED.com news analysis service, or our projects tracking database, MEED Projects, our premium report program, our events like our Saudi Arabia MENA Construction 2024 Summit, or our Saudi Giga Projects event in May in Riyadh, or whether it's our consulting and marketing solutions projects. There's a lot MEED can support you with, in addition to these amazing webinars that we give, if I may say so myself. Just to reiterate, we've got our big Saudi Giga Projects event coming up in May. We have a large number of Giga Project clients speaking, a lot of government representatives and other key stakeholders from the whole project's supply chain, both locally, regionally, and internationally. I'll be there. It's going to be an amazing event. It was amazing last year. It's going to be even better this year. Some fantastic networking opportunities with the key clients in the kingdom. We're going to have the ability to interact and meet with them more privately at the event as well. And if you wish to attend or to know more or to sponsor, please register. Please click on this QR code, and you'll get more information on that. And then we have also just another reminder about our Giga Projects report. If you want to know more about the Giga Projects ranging from NEOM, Qiddiya, Diriyah to Saudi Downtown Company and Asir Development Company, for example, then you need to really get this report. It is the #1 report and source of information on the Giga Projects in the kingdom. Again, use the QR code to click there. Now, I believe we should have another poll before we start the Q&A. There we are. So again, if you can indulge me this question, if you can just select if you are interested in any of these products or services or things I just mentioned, whether it's the event, the Premium Intelligence Report or MEED Projects and MEED.com, please tick one of these boxes and would love to get in touch with you to discuss further. So you've got MEED.com, MEED Projects, Premium Report, and the event. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes. This is not mandatory to respond to, but of course it's nice if you were to do so. Okay, that's great, 336, and it seems that a large chunk of you want to know more about the event. And I can assure you, as someone who loves listening to projects, markets, information, and meeting the clients, it is something I myself really look forward to, and I'm really excited to be able to chair that event and present to you all more projects information. Okay, great. That's great. 400 of you. Thank you very much for responding to that. Right, now for the Q&A session. If my voice can hold out, we will move to the questions. And I can see I've got 67 questions from you, which I will now attempt to answer. Again, just a reminder, we're recording this, so you'll be able to watch it again in due course. You should have received their presentation PDF on your emails already, and now answer your questions. Right, but before I do so, I again would ask you if you could indulge me by either now or shortly taking this short projects market survey about the projects market. It's really just to understand the challenges, opportunities, and pain points which companies are suffering from. If you could either click on the link when you get the PDF or the QR code and take that survey, that would be amazing. And if you do complete the survey and choose to, we will send you, you can select a free MEED Insight H2 2023 projects report, which is worth about $2,000. So that's definitely worth taking that survey if you can. It takes about 10 minutes, and that would be very, very useful and valuable for us. Okay, let's take your questions. First question, asked early on, I would like to hear about the extension of Riyadh Metro. Well, I think I have just answered that. So hopefully you will have got some information there. Please share some information on mining and metallurgy industry. Mining is an interesting sector. MEED.com has written its cover story this month on the mining sector, looking at the award of several hundred licenses to explore for minerals in the kingdom. Mining has been fairly neglected in the kingdom for the last few decades, but this is all changing. There is a huge amount of untapped resource ranging from uranium and copper to lithium and other rare earth materials and chemicals, as well as gold, copper, silver, and so on. If you look at, say, Ma'aden, which is the major mining company in the kingdom, is expanding its phosphate mining production in order to expand its fertilizer production as well. So there's a lot happening in mining, and maybe it's something that we will do a session on in the future in due course. What was the mix of oil and gas versus other industries in terms of project activity? Again, I think if you go back to slide 4 or 5, you should get that information. But construction and transport are the largest segments at the moment, but gas last year was also very significant. Another question about the stadium program in the kingdom. Well, I think I've answered that towards the end. The Ministry of Sport issued a pre-qualification for the 2027 Asian Cup stadiums. 6 or 7 of those are up for grabs to expand or build, or one new build as well. But on the 2034 plan, there are even more stadiums, and you see those have been announced at Qiddiya, Jeddah Central, and in Neom, and with the Jeddah Central one already being awarded, and the Qiddiya one under bid as well. So they are all being awarded and will be being built over the next 2 to 3 years. Do you know how to get architecture projects in on the Giga projects in places like Neom and Diriyah? So just to something I haven't touched on, but in terms of the Giga projects, they are quasi-government entities which have their own procurement systems. And for any company interested in bidding or working with them on their projects, then you simply need to go to their websites individually, go to their registration or vendor page, and then you register. Most of the time it's through Oracle or SAP Ariba, and you can register with your documentation, and you will immediately start receiving tenders for your category of work. And that's for it's separate procurement process for each of those Giga project clients, so you need to register separately with them. And for government entities like ministries, for example, then you would need to be registered with the Ihtimad tenders website, which is the public procurement website and dashboard for all public tenders, which would require, in most cases, you to be registered in Saudi Arabia, or for you to use an agent in order to bid and win work. That's how you would typically get involved in government or quasi-government projects. Question here that's often asked about the regional headquarters affecting contract awards. Can you still bid for projects via local partners? Yes, you can. There's a lot of confusion about this regional headquarter issue, I think it's fair to say. There are exceptions or exclusions to the rule, saying if the contract is worth less than 1 million riyals, that you don't need to have your headquarters in the kingdom. There are also rules about if the work cannot be carried, can only be carried out in one particular place. But also many companies are now using local agents or partners to bid or invoice on their behalf, which is another means of being able to participate in projects. And that's something that's increasingly happening. But in the long run, every company, if they're serious about Saudi Arabia, should look very much about creating a local presence, setting up, getting a commercial registration number, and being in there for the long haul, especially as this requirement for localization, Saudization, is only going to increase. Question about the hotels market, hospitality. The leisure or hospitality market is huge in the kingdom. As you know, many of the Giga projects are focused on tourism. Take, for example, the Red Sea Global project. It has finished, or is finishing its first phase, hotels, and is building many more, tens of thousands of rooms, as is Neom, of course. And if you take another example, the Royal Medina Giga project has several tens of thousands of rooms planned alongside the Holy Mosque in Medina, and which are currently under tender. So whether it's a 5-star, 4-star, or 3-star hotel, they are building tens of thousands of rooms there as well. So whether it's Islamic tourism or whether it's business or leisure tourism, there are more than 100,000 rooms planned or under construction in the kingdom. So it's a very active market. The question is there double counting of contract award values when you are listing the data? No, there is no double counting. We have a formula and an employer system of net project values on MEED projects, which means that it's impossible to double count the value of work awarded or the future value of work awarded. So there's no double counting. No. Someone's pointed out that there is maybe an error in the economy table around the GDP. I did spot that when I was reading it out, and you're quite right. The GDP number is incorrect. We will correct that. I believe Saudi GDP is about, I think it's about $800 billion, more or less. But don't quote me on that. I'll come back to everyone with that particular figure. Any information about the nuclear power plants plans? Any dates yet? Well, the government in its 2023 budget said that its plan was to select the foreign technology partner and licensor and co-developer on its nuclear power program during 2023. It has received bids. As I understand, it's come from China, Korea, Japan, France, and Russia. And those negotiations are still underway, and we will wait to see how that progresses. But that's the first step. There are various challenges that have to be overcome. It's a very political issue, of course, huge financial commitment. You have issues like the technology having to be passed by the US Congress, for example, as well. It's quite a complex process there. But once the foreign partner has been selected, then I expect work to begin at pace. It wouldn't be the first nuclear program in the region, of course. The Abu Dhabi, UAE has its Barakat nuclear power plant in Abu Dhabi, west of the Abu Dhabi Emirate. We also have the Egyptian Al Daba nuclear power plant under construction. And of course, Iran has long had nuclear power project as well. So Saudi will be the next big one. What is the reason why we're seeing such a large influx of Chinese contractors in Saudi Arabia? We've seen a number of reasons. First, we've seen a slowdown in real estate activity in China itself, which means that many of the big Chinese contractors are coming into the region. Second reason is that simply because there is a need for more contractors in Saudi Arabia, and Chinese contractors are coming in to take advantage of that. Chinese there's also a geopolitical element. The Chinese government is very keen to exert more Chinese influence in the GCC. And of course, just as we've seen in Africa, having Chinese contractors come in, potentially finance also projects, is an excellent means of being able to achieve that as well. But Chinese contractors are very capable. They've got a great experience in large-scale infrastructure projects. They've got the labor, they've got the equipment, and that is a reason really why we're seeing so many more Chinese contractors come in. Please talk more about Qiddiya and NEOM. Can I please direct you towards our Giga Projects webinar from last month, which you can find on YouTube or on the MEED.com website. You'll also be able to get full information on those from our premium report on the Saudi Giga Projects program. The finance minister in December said that some projects could be slowed to manage inflation and supply chain issues. Which ones do you see being slowed up so far, or is it hard to tell? Well, it is hard to tell because obviously there's nothing going to be officially mentioned for the time being, but it's true that with cost inflation, with the supply chain stretched, we can see anecdotally that there are some slowdown on some projects or some reevaluation of them. For example, the line at NEOM now is focused on the construction of the first 3 or 4 modules rather than going along the whole length. We're seeing some realignment or rationalization of some other projects as well. And it was always inevitable that this 2030 deadline for many projects was never, not always going to be realistic. And now there's a sort of realization that there's going to be some rescoping or rephasing over time of these projects. And that's beginning to happen. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It is in line with what the market can absorb and can accomplish. and it's still a very significant increase in project activity regardless. But what it does mean is that the push or the extension of this Giga Projects program is going to be well into 2030 and potentially into 2040 and beyond. What about the PPP projects in the pipeline? So the National Centre for Privatisation, the NCP, they've got a great website which lists all their future projects, has a pipeline of more than 250 PPP projects in the kingdom, ranging from social infrastructure, medical centres, social care, not all necessarily projects, hospitals, schools, metal plants, petrochemical facilities, roads, airports, you name it, ports as well. So there is by far and away the largest PPP program in the region. They've already done a handful of PPP projects very successfully, and that will be increasing in pace as time goes on. So as I said, more than 250 PPP projects known of today, and I wouldn't be surprised if that number doubles over the next 5 years or so. Just looking for your questions to ones that I can answer. A question about air blasting technology. Unfortunately, I am not an expert on that, so I'm not able to answer that question, I'm afraid. But if you email me, my contact details are here. Please email me with any questions you might have, or WhatsApp me, there's my number, and I'll be trying to answer them. What do you mean when you say quasi-government? What I mean by quasi-government is government-related entities, which are effectively owned by the state, but which don't necessarily operate like the state. So, for example, NEOM, Qiddiya, Red Sea Global are owned by the PIF. The PIF in turn is owned by the government, but they operate like private companies. But they are still linked to the state effectively, but they operate in their own way. An example, for example, in the UAE would be Nakhil, is a good example of something like that in the UAE. Question here saying that Saudi cement won't be an issue, and it's saying that it produces some really high quality cement and it will be able to keep up with demand. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Everyone talks about supply chain crunch, but actually, if you look at cement prices in Saudi Arabia, they've come down. The prices have come down in the last few months, which doesn't correlate to an increase in project activity. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that really, we're still at the very early stages of some of these projects. We've seen a huge number of awards over the last 6 months, and that increase in demand is only going to be really felt over the next few months and years ahead. So we will start seeing an increase in demand, which in turn should result in an increase in price. But if we look carefully at some of these cement projects, then 3 or 4 of them are actually expanding, adding an extra 4,000 tons a day of cement each, which is, of course, going to alleviate some of this stress pressure. What is the Saudi break-even price of oil for the budgeting purposes? It's never that clear. We estimate it's between $70 and $80 a barrel is what the budget is predicated on. It could potentially be as low as $65 a barrel, but as long as the oil price remains above that figure, then Saudi Arabia should be able to balance its budget. Any lower, and then there will be significant problems with the delivery of the projects program. And if you look, Saudi Arabia has spent a lot of time last year trying to control its own output as a means of stabilizing the oil price and keeping oil prices high. So it is a very critical issue, the oil price for the kingdom. Question about Saudiization and local content targets, how it impacts the appetite and ability to engage and perform. It makes it certainly a lot harder for some international companies to work in the kingdom, but I don't think it has ever put off anyone from working in the kingdom. I believe most companies have the desire and appetite to do more work in the kingdom. As we saw earlier from this poll, with most companies willing to take on more work. So it is a hurdle that they will overcome one way or the other. But in terms of being able to resolve this issue, whether it's under Sharik program or other general finance foreign investment initiatives, the kingdom is now moving a sort of carrot and stick approach by forcing materials to be produced locally, but also providing incentive in terms of, in a way, guaranteeing the output from many facilities. Let's take, for example, the Lucid electric vehicle facility. The government has said, you come in, you build your plant, you produce 150,000 cars, electric vehicles a year in the kingdom, but we will guarantee or purchase a certain amount of those vehicles every year. And that kind of balances out that sort of demand risk that many investors have. So with that guarantee of whether it's a procurement of steel or iron or other materials, or whether it's pharmaceutical products or electrical vehicles and so on, the government is saying, we have this huge program, we have this big Saudi 2030 vision, we're going to need these materials anyway, come in and invest, and we'll make sure that you've got the advantage in us buying them. Question about payments on time, big issue for companies over the years, especially between 2017 and 2020. There were a lot of delayed payments, caused a lot of cash flow issues, and caused many companies to go bust or to leave the region. And if you look at the quasi-government entities, the Giga Project clients, for example, they're very clear that they have very favorable payment terms. They want to pay up in 20 to 30 days after invoicing, and they recognize the challenges companies face. They're also competing with each other, and each one needs to have very competitive terms in order to attract companies, because otherwise, in a seller's market, supplier or contractors simply go to another client. So we are seeing big improvements in payment terms, and we are it's becoming much more favorable, whether it's contractually or in terms of payments for companies to come and participate in the kingdom. For government clients like ministries, it's still a little bit more challenging. They're bound by the government procurement rules and systems, and so it's a slightly different story. But there's definitely have been improvements on payments in the kingdom. Disputes out of Giga Projects. I think it's fair to say that with more flexible contractual terms and different procurement rules and systems, then there are still has been and likely to be fewer disputes and arbitrations on the Giga projects. That's not to say that there won't be, but so far it's been controllable. I think it's fair to say that in other sectors, in other segments, it's still a big problem, but not just in Saudi Arabia, but in the region as a whole. I think it's fair to say. There are opportunities and challenges. Which is more? Opportunities. For sure, if you choose the right client and you have the right plan and you get the right strategy, then there are definitely more opportunities than there are challenges. On the other hand, if you're in there for a money grab, going in unprepared, then you will encounter challenges. But there is more than enough work to go around. There simply isn't enough capacity to deliver or supply to deliver this program. So there will certainly be companies, even if you never worked in the region before, there are going to be opportunities for you to participate. We want to invest and build a cement factory, but where can we purchase the raw materials? That's a very specific question. Generally, you need a quarrying license and a license to produce cement in the kingdom. It's a fairly closed market, but the raw materials are all available locally, whether that's clinker or limestone or aggregate. Saudi Arabia has plenty of that. A lot of job poaching is happening, and that's correct. Yes, there are a lot of people being lured into Saudi Arabia from the UAE and other markets globally, and are working in the kingdom for more money. And then within the kingdom itself, there's a lot of poaching between different companies, of course, and also Saudi nationals. So good Saudi talent is poached regularly, and so retention of Saudi talent is a big problem. But we're also seeing many people who've gone into Saudi Arabia to return. As the UAE market heats up, a lot of them are returning back to the UAE as well. It is a dynamic situation. But of course, Saudi Arabia wants more and more people to come and live in the kingdom, but there are still challenges to overcome, such as enough school places, healthcare facilities, accommodation for everyone, and some of the softer infrastructure, which still needs to be developed in order to really change that. I've got too many questions to answer here and not enough time. I've got more than 100 questions. I think I've had more than 150 questions. So I won't be able to answer them all, but please email me and or email me or text me, and I'll do my best to answer them. With a rise in project budgets, can we expect the kingdom to lift restrictions to attract high-skilled population from around the world? Well, I mean, Saudi Arabia has already lifted visa restrictions. It definitely wants the top talent. It has made it easier for people to long-term invest and live in the kingdom through some of the sort of residence visas. And it is going to be becoming easier and easier for specialists and experts to come into the kingdom and live and work. And I expect that over the next year or so, we'll see lifting of restrictions of the buying of property in Saudi Arabia by foreign buyers or non-residents. And that will have a big impact on the construction market in the kingdom, as you might expect. What are plans for greenery projects? Well, there's a major $20 billion program called Riyadh Green, which is essentially the beautification of Riyadh through the planting of millions of trees. If you go to Riyadh, you will see now that there's more and more shrubbery and greenery being planted around the capital, along roads, along interchanges, and the ambition really is to make Riyadh a more livable place, more shade, more outdoor activities. And then again, that's part of the transformation of Saudi Arabia. It's about making it a more attractive place to live and work. It's about making it better for families. And it's all part of this process to open up the kingdom and change the way people live and work there. Tower X is North Pole project, isn't it? Yes. We'll talk about the North Pole project and Tower X in due course, I believe, over the course of the year, as more details are revealed about it. There are several more Giga projects to be announced over the next few months and year ahead. And it's, we're looking at the number of them now, but there's going to be even more, both in the Eastern Province, in Sheba, in Riyadh itself, and we're going to see a lot more coming about. Projects in the Eastern region, well, actually, they are by coincidence. Next question, Eastern region. There is a major Giga project happening in Al Khafji, in the divided zone between Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, and there's going to be another one to the south in Al Ukair as well, and in Sheba too. So big residential tourism projects which will be announced by the PIF, I imagine, in due course. So the Eastern Province hasn't had that many Giga projects so far, but it certainly will do over the next few months. It also, of course, got the RIG project, and the RIG is a Giga project, which is an offshore oil rig off the coast of the Eastern Province, which is going to be a major tourism and leisure destination too. Talked about mining already, and some very interesting and varied questions here. The question here about the May event, the Giga Projects event. It is a ticketed event. So yes, if you want to attend, you do need to pay to attend that event or sponsor it. Are we going to have a similar webinar for the UAE? We will almost certainly do a webinar and report about the UAE projects market this year. We have got one planned in a couple of months' time on the Abu Dhabi oil and gas market. And we will do something in due course on the Dubai real estate, or the UAE, Abu Dhabi and Dubai real estate market. Are the project values displayed in the slides actual project values? Is there any way to get more accurate numbers? They are accurate numbers. There are either official numbers and numbers we've obtained directly from source, or there are estimates based on the scope of the project. It's bottom up. Every data we've produced is bottom up. It's based on hundreds of individual projects. So each column you see may well have several thousand individual project data points contributing to it. So yes, it is fairly accurate and is used by almost all of the major ministries, government companies and national oil companies in the region. Another question about UAE. Yes, we will do one on the UAE. Question about the line. Has the work started? Well, tenders have been issued for the module rafts, and then we might see tendering and completion of starting the building of the modules, first 3 modules themselves around the hidden marina. The tenders to start next, either this year or next. Right, got another question. I'll make this the last question, if you'll forgive me. I've still got several dozen more, but email me, WhatsApp me if you've got questions, call me even, and I'll do my best to help or to direct you to someone who can help. How can you participate in these projects? Directly. Again, it's very straightforward. Go to the NEOM website, go to the Red Sea Global website, go to the Numeraba website, or whatever Giga project client, go to their menu, registration, vendor registration or supplier registration. There you follow the instructions to register. You need things like your company registration details. You need your experience. They'll need your balance sheets in some instances. It's a typical SAP Ariba or Oracle process. You register, it's very quick. The registration process can be completed in as little as 3 days. And there is a reason for that. These clients are desperate for more companies from around the world to come in. Doesn't matter if you've never worked in the kingdom before or the region. In fact, if you're a service company, you can do a lot of your work from your home country. There is a huge requirement. There simply isn't enough resources in the region or in Saudi Arabia to deliver this program, and every company around the world can and should participate. So register for each Giga project client individually. You'll start receiving tenders automatically through SAP Ariba or Oracle. And it's simple as that. And there really has never been a lower hurdle or barrier to invest in the kingdom. So I've run out of time. I've gone on for 1 hour and 25 minutes. I need to give my voice a break. And I just want to say thank you so much for your questions and for your participation today. We had more than 1,000 people attending, which is absolutely fantastic. It just shows how much interest there is in the projects market in the kingdom. As I said, there's a lot more to Saudi Arabia than the Giga projects, and there's opportunity across all sectors and segments of the project market. And whether you are in Japan or Brazil or Canada or in Qatar or South Africa, there are more than enough opportunities for you to participate. And indeed, you should. It's never been easier to work in Saudi Arabia. Anyway, that's it for me. Please check out our Saudi Arabia Premium Giga Projects report. It has everything you need to know about the Giga Projects program and how to participate in it, tenders, contact details, and so on. And please, I really hope I can meet you all at our Giga Projects and MENA Construction Summit event in May in Riyadh, where you have a chance face-to-face to meet the Giga Project clients and other government ministries and understand in person their future project plans and how you can help them deliver it. So thank you again, and I will hopefully see you all shortly for our next webinar series this year, next month. Thank you very much.